All right, so hopefully you have determined what type of editor you would like to use for HTML. Again, I will be using HTML through Visual Studio Code, but it's totally up to you which one you would like to use. So let's go ahead and get started in building our first web page. So the first thing I like to do is I like to tell people to just go to W3 Schools and copy their basic sample that they have there to get you started. So if you come here, you see this section here. Again, how did I access that? This is called W3 Schools, and I'm under the HTML. So here you see there's some example code that is already in the editor for you if you choose to use that editor. If not, you can also come here and grab it yourself, but this is what we're working with. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Visual Studio Code, and we're going to go ahead and paste that in. So now I have some sample text, and let me go ahead and set this to auto save so I don't have to save it every time. But that will pretty much create a HTML file. So next I would need to go to, let's see, code. So I went to documents, code, where I created that folder, and you see we have a html1.html file. Now when it first came to this folder, you saw there was Google Chrome icon on it because it will open in the web browser. So now if we double click, then you see it opened up that web page into our web browser. So take note, it says here page title, and then this is a heading and this is a paragraph. So if we go back to Visual Studio Code, you see that it's the three items of text we have within our file already. And remember, the primary components will be your declaration, which is here, which is always the first line. You would also have that followed by the HTML tag to establish your HTML text. And then you would have the head, which would hold the title, and the title is the one that appears on the tab of the web browser. But everything else that you want to show on your actual web page is going to be inside of the body. So for this example, I will space the body out so you can just kind of see it separately. But here we'll change this to my first web page. All right, so now we were going to change this and we'll say learning HTML. So H1 again stands for header 1. So that basically says, okay, hey, I want to make some text that is big and bold. Again, there are H1 through H6, so it would just decrease in size when it goes down. So we can add a H2, and on Visual Studio Code it will automatically create the closing tag for you, so I don't need to create it, but in some editors you do need to still put it. But in this case, pretty much anything you want to be visible as a header would go inside of the tags. So again, on line 9, you see learning HTML, and that pretty much is showing you the what's going to be in the header. Let me see if I can make that a little bigger. There we go. And I'll do it again. I don't want to make it too big. All right, so we have learning HTML, and we have this as a paragraph. So I'm going to add another header, so we could say building a web page. That will add another header, and then here in the paragraph we could say, let's see, I am learning how to make a website. All right, so now that you have that, if you go back to your web browser, if you already had your file open, so you see this is our last code we have. Pay attention to the page title, this is a heading, and this is a paragraph. If we were to refresh this, then you see everything has now automatically changed to whatever we typed in and is now appearing as a web page. All right, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and get into creating your image. So for example, if we head over to W3 Schools, you will find information about how to do pretty much everything in HTML. So here it has the image tag that you want to use. So we will go ahead and use this. And if you scroll down, it has different details about different things that you can use with images to make it a little bit fancier. So for example, image size, what you would want, because some images you're going to use are going to be massive. So we'll go ahead and copy this. And let me do that, copy. And we're going to go over here, back to our editor, and we're going to paste that. So I'll put it right here. All right. So the issue with this is if we copy this directly, we're not going to have an image in our documents folder called this, which is what we need. So I'm going to go ahead and just clear this out because we'll change it to whatever we want. And then I'm going to head to Google and get an image. So let's go to Google Images. And let's say we want a HTML picture. So we have this, and I'll just grab one, for example. Let's do that one. So if you right click, then you can do save image as, and then here I'll say HTML, and it's going to go to the downloads. In our case, again, if you're running it from your computer, you would want to make sure that it is in the same folder of your file. So in my case, I have it in documents. So I would need to navigate to my documents, go to code, and place it within the folder where my file is, which is right here. So I'll save that there. So it says I have html.png, which is saved. Now for the W3 School side, again, if you are a Windows user, I highly would suggest using your text editor or Notepad++. Again, text editor for you would be Notepad on your device. But here you see there's not a lot of components to allow you to work with images in their space. So that would be the only thing. You can save your code here, but sometimes it can be a little bit tricky when you are using this one. So just want to point that out, that it might be best to just go with Notepad on your Windows machine to do this. And make sure you just save your HTML file as a .html file in your documents folder, similar to what I did in this example. So going back to Visual Studio, we are going to first check our folder to see if our image is there, which it is. And also, if you look on Visual Studio Code, you see it is now right there as well. So all I would need to do now is match the exact name. And as I start typing, it pops up. So as soon as I click enter, it will add it there. Now, Alt is not necessarily a requirement that you have to do, but it's just something to give information about what the image is. So we'll just say HTML logo, and we'll leave the width and the height as it is, like that. So again, we made our edits. Now we have to go see if it is updated. So here we are, right here, refresh, and then it has now appeared. Obviously, the spacing is a little off, but that's okay. And pretty much you just have your image there. Again, there's various ways to do spacing in this case, and alignment as well. So if you come here, then you see that we also have other examples of how to do it, which this is another way. This is more so using the CSS side of things, which we have not gotten into yet. But that is another example. So if you keep scrolling, you'll see different ways to work with images. I just showed you a simple example on here. Okay, now pretty much again, everything you're going to want to work with on this end is going to be on this site, and you can just come here and use examples of how to use it. So, for example, here is an example of how to change your color of your paragraph through the attributes. So style is the attribute that you would use. You can copy this, and that's going to say background color. And that would literally make the box or the background color of the box that color. So if you go to Visual Studio Code, it would go inside of your opening tag, which is right here. So you do a space, paste that in. Tomato is just another word for red. Here you see it has different colors, so you can actually click and drag and change it, and it will change it up here on Visual Studio for you. So just to give you an idea of why Visual Studio can be helpful sometimes. So we have that, and then we're going to go ahead and come here, for example, and let's refresh our page, and you see it now put a box around our words with a color. So we've done that just to show you an example of color. Now text color is something different. You would just say color instead of background color. Before we said background color, now you would just say color. So again, you can copy this and change it to whatever color you choose. And let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Come here and let's say we want to change our header's color. So we'll do style there. And then let's just say we want to do, and again, you can just type in the color, so red. And then if you come check here, now you see this has turned red. So that is also good as well. Now, as you see over here, there are a lot of links that you can click on. So it might get confusing, it might get hectic. So there might be times where you're like, I don't know where to start, or I don't know how to find what I'm looking for, and that's okay. So I'm going to show you the best way to go about that. So let's say we want to create a menu in HTML. So we'll say HTML menu bar. And hold on, HTML menu bar. And it's going to show us how to create a menu bar if you just type that in. Now, for this example, we'll go ahead and click on this link, W3 Schools. It just helps you to find things better. And if you see here, it has put it in a div container. So remember, that is a container you can use to group things together. In this case, it is grouping various links together, and those links would be the different web pages that you want to have connected. So we are going to go ahead and copy this. Again, remember, HTML is the structure, and then CSS gives it a design. So for us to get this full design, we would have to add CSS, which I'm not going to do in this video. I'll make CSS its own video, but we're just going to add the structure components for now. So if you head back over to Visual Studio Code or your editor, I'm going to say I want my header to be directly above my menu. So that means you would have to place it right under the header. So here I would put my header and paste it there, and it would add it to your page. So go check to verify no issues, and then you see it appear there. And then you see if you hover, it basically will allow you to make links. So I'm going to put a break in between here. Break, and that's just going to add a little bit of spacing to our code. But here it says homepage, and then in this case I'll set it up to be about me or something. So we'll do about me, and then we can say here dreams, and then we'll say here future career. So in this case, we are going to, oops, I messed up that tag, so make sure it's closed. Added extra, so there, we fixed it. So in this case, I'm just going to make my menu similar to like if I wanted to make a website about me. Here you have a H reference, which is basically saying the reference of the current page that you're on, which would be the home page. So this would be in instance a home page. However, in this case, we don't have it named home, so you could technically change it to HTML1. So here, HTML1, and then typically you want to match it to whatever the page name is, but I didn't create it as home, so I just made it that in this case. But here we can make it about me. We can make this dreams, and we can make this career. All right, so to connect the sites now, to have multiple pages that work together, you would have to create another file and store them in the same folder. So I'm going to open up my Explorer here, and I'm going to click on the page icon, and then I'm going to type in the name of the file, which again would be about me.html, enter, and then I'm going to go back to my other page. I have dreams.html and careers.html. And then career.html. So now I've created various pages, and you see they are all up here on Visual Studio, so it's easy for me to work with them. Just click and switch between them. And again, it's basically saying, hey, I want to connect this page together. So we're going to do that, but first, for us to see if it's working, we had to put some sort of code on each page. So we'll go back to our W3 schools, come here, and then we are going to grab this sample code here and paste it onto each page and just edit it briefly to see if it's working. So come here, I'll paste that here, come here, paste that there. Didn't get it. Let me paste Command C, Command V. All right, there we go. So then here we can say for this page it's going to be about me. And we're going to change this to about me as well. So when you click on it, you'll see it's working. Same on the other pages. Come here, change that to career. Change that to career as well. Career. All right, same with the dreams. Dreams. And then let's go here. Dreams as well. All right, so now we have those there. Now, let's see what we currently have. So first, I always like to say make a change or a few changes and then test it just to see how it works. And if you have any issues, you can modify it. But as you see here, we do have our changes there. So what happens if we click on them? You see nothing happens other than the fact it added that hashtag there to the end of the end of the hyperlink. Same here, same here, same here, right? So come here, and that pretty much will say, okay, this is my alt. This is just giving a reference. So for this one, we can say home, and then that's going to connect us to the home page. Now in this case, you can change this to be about me.html. You can change this one to be dreams.html, and you can change this one to be career.html. All right, go back to your page, Let's refresh that. You see our links have refreshed. If we click on it now, you see it took us to our career page. You hit the back button, dreams, back button again, about me, and home is which we're already on. So now you have a website that is connected. However, obviously, to navigate between the pages, you would have to make sure that that tab bar is on all pages. So that's another step that you would need to do. So to do that, if you go back to your original code and come here and copy that div container that contains your menu bar, so copy that, and you want to paste that after each header like we did on the front page to match. And I'm just going to paste them first and then show you how to edit them. All right, so we've added that. So now what we're going to do is pretty much just change the active component. So here, this would have to be, actually, let me go back. So we're going to then again copy this to the one that's active. So currently we are on about me page. So we need to add the href on the one that was active. So the home, href equals, and then here we're going to put the HTML1 page because that's what we have as our home page. And then we're going to take this away. We don't really need that, so we'll cut that out. All right, so that's saying our home page. And then about me page, so we need to add that active component here. So class active here. So I'll copy that. And then we want to add that to whatever page we're on, basically. So on this page, we are on the Dreams page, so we'll go here. And we will delete it from here. And we actually need to then again change this to the HTML page again, or whatever yours is called. All right, and then let's come here to career. Same thing, add the active. We're going to delete it from here. And then add our HTML1 page, which is our home page. And then lastly, on the About Me page, add it here, active. We are going to make sure that's set. Yes, we already did it there, so all good there. So now if we return to our HTML page, refresh, and now you see it is on every page, and all of our pages are now connected. So now the good part is you have a website constructed, and then after this point, it's totally up to you how you are going to be designing and placing your information in there. So again, on W3 Schools, it shows you how to do various things. So if you want a table in there, there's an example of a table. If we want, let's see what else they have. It also gives you some details about different things if you're wondering. More information about it as well. If you want to link, but we basically just did a link with our web pages. If you want some sort of media, which we've added images, but if you want videos or embedding YouTube. So again, if you don't know what to look for on here, all you would have to do is go to your Google search bar and type in HTML and whatever you're looking for. So let's say forms, and it pops it up easy. And let's say we want to add a form for entry on our contact page. Come down here, copy that, and then edit it to whatever you need it to be. So about me. Let's say we want a contact page. We'll put here, feel free to contact me. Paste that. All right, so we'll go ahead and do it like that. And from this point, you see we have first name here as a label. So it's going to label a box, which our box is going to be right here. The box is going to take in some text, and it's going to be given the ID name of F name. We have another label and then another box within our form. So we have two labels and two boxes. So if we go here, refresh our page, then you see it here. Now, of course, you see we can type stuff in. And technically, yes, there is a way to save this information. That is getting a lot deeper into programming, and that typically is taught in like a web development class or software development class. And that would be connecting this to a database of sorts. But that can be done. But in this example, we're just showing you how to do the forms. If you go back to the forms, if you want to add a button, scroll down. Here's the submit button right here. So that would be right here. You would copy that little line. Go back to Visual Studio Code. Place it in here. There we go. Go back to our website. Refresh. Now we have a submit button. Again, spacing is off because we didn't add any spacing for it. So a quick simple fix would be break right here, so BR. And then when you come back to the page, refresh, it is now under. So of course you can add as many breaks as you want in this case to make it space. Of course there's other way to add spacing, which I showed in the lecture slides, but I'm just doing a quick tutorial of how to get started with HTML. So that is pretty much the basics of creating and putting stuff on your HTML file. So now I have some sort of website that is created, and if I take a look at our documents folder, you see they're all there, so I can find them. And then pretty much as you edit it, you'll then create your web page. So for this, I would like to challenge you all to go ahead and explore HTML, what they have here. You know, see what the different offerings they have. Go in and see if there's certain things you want to try out on your page. So we've done that. Here's like layout. If you want to change the layout view of your page, you can do that. Again, it goes into CSS, which we haven't gotten into yet. But feel free, if you're looking to get deeper into it and you like what you're doing just to explore, you can do that. You can add emojis and stuff like that. So I'm just showing you how to create the basic HTML file and get started on creating a web page. So I hope that you enjoyed learning how to get into website development. This is the basics and the standards to get started. In the next week, we will get into the CSS, to the designing portion, to make our website look more appealing to the eye. Again, we just basically did structure, so there's no crazy designs other than our text color so far. So we'll get to that in next week. But for now, just explore the capabilities of HTML, see what you can create on your own, and then you can use that to add design to it in the following week. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.